You are watching
Rarely Reserved,
a Star Wars Shatterpoint podcast.
I am Omnis, the Messiah, God Machine God.
Mm-hmm. The Omnissiah.
Yeah.
Yep.
AKA Omnissiah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I am your local friendly tech priest, Sin.
Excellent. Tech priest Sin. I dig that. Yeah. So yeah, you fucked up calling me a god last episode. This might be a bit.
I heard about that. Yeah. It's fine. It's all fine.
Yeah, I actually had to go look it up. I was changing my nickname in the Rarely Reserved Discord. And then I was like, was it Machine God? And I was like, hey, I remembered it is Machine God.
The Machine God.
I mean, it would make more sense for you to be the Machine God. That would make sense.
Yeah, well, we'll trade names. Would you like to be Sin and I'll be the Omnissiah?
I think I'm going to stick with Omnissiah, actually. I mean, Sin's pretty cool. Anyway, it's good to be back.
Yeah.
Got to play a fun Shatterpoint game this past Saturday with Jim, who's, I think you've met him at least once, but he's been getting really into it. He's picked up a bunch of boxes. Actually, no, Jim and I didn't play this week. I ended up playing against Donovan. Because by the time there was Highway closed, and so everybody was kind of getting into mocks pretty late. But I got to put Ahsoka and Hunter on the table again. And that was super fun. Seeing Donovan complain about my weird off-meta list where he's like, this is so complicating. If I do this, you're going to do this. If I do this, you're going to do this. I love Donovan.
He hasn't unlocked the secret of just not knowing what's going on.
Yeah.
So you're just having a good time.
It's sometimes but that's the thing. I think that's what is so hard about miniatures games and probably card games to a certain degree as well, right? Is if you don't understand what your opponents can do, it is just a whole different animal. Yep. And so learning to play your team is 10% of it,
Yeah. Yeah, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You can do what you're doing. I'll just react.
Well, we can talk painting for just a moment. I don't have any Shatterpoint stuff. I haven't started working on the terrain, but we've been kind of showing off the Age of Sigmar stuff. You haven't picked any of it up yet. And so I was kind of surprised that you didn't grab any of the models. I mean, they're fairly durable.
Well, I know, but I feel like you had framed it so well for the camera, and I was like, I'm going to screw that up the second I touch it.
Well, part of when I was editing the videos, I kind of felt like this area was kind of blank, and I was realizing the stuff was kind of far out. And so one of the thoughts in the future was maybe we position a camera right here. We could be oh, I just painted Balin and be mixing something like that in and just have a little mini studio.
Showcase.
Yeah. A little of whatever we're working on. And since I was working on these, I did want to say I kind of want more teal on this. So I'm considering if I want to do ribbons or something.
Oh yeah.
Just something, add a little bit over there.
I can see it.
But yeah,
I really like that.
I love painting terrain. Honestly, getting to this because it was the most fun I was having painting these guys was the basing.
Yeah.
And so I just got to do basically a large amount of basing.
That's true.
But
I also really enjoy terrain, so
yeah. So that was pretty cool. And then painted my big doodly.
Heck yeah.
Which is really funny because he's supposed to be attached to the wing. So he's way higher usually.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I didn't even clock that.
Yeah.
That looks great.
Yeah. So that's why he actually fits in the tray. I've bent his sword 3 times. Yeah. And so we're working on that part. But yeah, overall, actually having a base that would you had some room to work with, right? Where I could put a bunch of stuff on there and I had clear room to mix in a little bit.
Yeah, affectionately referred to as a dinner plate.
Yeah, but yeah, pretty cool. Not a super complicated paint scheme, but yeah, I can play a full team if I want.
I'm so excited.
But yeah, so actually the trying out some AOS stuff actually inspired the first part of the show today, which is obviously I feel like we've done 37 episodes that are basically community building. Half the podcast. But I ended up with more thoughts this week. Because I think one thing that is just on my mind is how to grow the Shatterpoint community.
Of course.
And we were kind of talking about how getting into Shatterpoint, I got into it at the very beginning. When I was getting back into Shatterpoint, huge amount of friends online. Like, I know everybody. And so it's just different than someone just hopping into a game and hopping into Age of Sigmar, where as compared to like, if I was talking to you, it was like, well, what if I tried War Machine again? What if I, tried Legion, which is like an adjacent community, but Legion probably would still count. But going into something where I literally know like no one but you, basically, like there's Carrick, right? And I've been talking a little bit with Chris at Mox, right? But it's still very different than like knowing fucking everyone.
Yeah.
So one of the first thoughts was just like, if somebody gets into a game, where's your like hype sharing? Or I don't know like what the best way to call that is, but right, like I don't like Pure has been, shout out to the War Council, but Pure has just been like pretty like, because Pure's kind of going down a similar tree with trying StarCraft. And so I feel like he and I have been bonding a little bit just on this, like trying new things. And like, when you go from like feeling like you're pretty good at one game to be like, here, now I'm going to try something totally fresh and I'm going to suck,
Yeah.
But how you share hype, because like, if I didn't have you to share pictures of the models with, I was like, where would my hype buildup be? Yeah. Right? I'm not sure I feel close enough with Carrick to be like messaging him pictures constantly. And so I think that's a really important thing, because like I'm just like bombarding you with pictures of the random shit while I'm painting while you're trying to run a game store and shit. But like let's pause on that one for a minute. Like, just where does your hype sharing come from? And you've recently gotten into MCP and then Shatterpoint, and I was curious if you have thoughts on the hype sharing aspect.
I think that being able to like share your experiences is probably the biggest part of it, because when you're brand new, so for me it was easy because you introduced me to a lot of people who were excited, and then you were obviously very excited about my excitement, so that made things easier. I can't really picture it being simple if you don't have something like a plug and play, right? Like the way that I did for Shatterpoint. It was very much like, I'm somewhat interested in this. I'm going to dip my toes in, and then everyone was like, "Welcome."
Now we have adopted you. Yeah. You are part of the kingdom, the galaxy's greatest.
Yes.
It's just So, like, a takeaway that I was thinking about is when you, like, say you do get someone into the community or someone buys some boxes, if they are not getting into it with their friends, like, I do hear a lot of friends groups. Like, I was just listening to, like a 40K YouTube thing that was talking about how they basically just play with their friends these days. They're like, we used to do all the tournaments. Now I just mostly play games with my friends, because they're talking about like some of the animosity and stuff that comes up at like larger events. And, like take the Muse guys from the Marvel community, right? They often they're like, I'm going to get into a game if other people in the friends group are going to get into the game. And I think there's a really important aspect of, encouraging when you get a new person to buy in, like, hey, as you're painting, like, send me pictures. If you want to talk about lists. Like, I think having a degree of like hype sharing is really important, because I was just realizing how much I was like, I don't think I would be as excited to be working on the AOS stuff if it wasn't for you, and to a certain degree Pure, just because we've been talking about the stuff behind the scenes so much. Yeah. And like, it was just hitting me how much I was like, I need this like hype. I know there's a better term in my head, but this like hype continuum, maybe.
What, hype
like,
train?
Yeah. But this cycle of like, I'm doing this thing that makes you more excited, and you're like, you're excited to like see, like, getting that cycle going with someone, I think, is a really big deal, because otherwise people might like pick up, like, think about how much fucking plastic we have that is unassembled. And
no, I don't want to.
I was just moving a bunch of shit around to like clean up and organize for work from home, and how many boxes of plastic that I have.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what insane amount of time would it take to actually put all the stuff together and get it all painted? Yeah. I'm so far behind. But I think that's how that happens, right? Where you don't have that hype continuum.
Yeah, well, or you hyped yourself up too much and thought that you could get more done than you actually can, which is what I tend to do. But
or you throw yourself down a flight of stairs and then don't get anything done.
I don't know anyone dumb enough to do that. So
I'm actively nervous every time I go down my flight of stairs. I was like, what happens if she's finally getting healthy and then I can't play or paint? Well,
here's the trick. Don't do the combination of living in a townhome with carpeted stairs, jogging down the stairs while looking at your phone.
Yeah. When I was bringing all my stuff home to start work from home on Friday, and I'm walking down basically a full flight of stairs carrying like a box of monitors and stuff, I was like, this would be the absolute wrong time to fall down a flight of stairs.
Oh, yeah. No, and it occurred to me that you actually have the least stairs to enter of any of my friends.
Oh.
Only a single flight. Everyone else I know lives in like the third floor.
Jesus.
No elevator. So I'm just like, face my fears all the time, man.
Yeah. Will, so is there anything else that you want to add on the importance of the hype continuum, or any anecdotes from your side of things? Because you've gotten into a lot of games just in the last few years.
Yeah. I know it's not many games, but since I work at a game store, a lot of people try to get me into card games, and I think it's a similar thing there in terms of like getting someone excited about something.
Yeah.
You have to be excited about what they're excited about and not try to make it what you're excited about, if that makes sense.
No, I definitely agree. And I'm really glad that you mentioned that part of it, because I think, like, how often do you message someone and you're like, I'm excited about this, and they're like, that's great, and like change the subject, basically.
Yeah, not great.
Or, this happens, like, I don't want to just be like negative on the Discord communities, but in general, right, I think a lot of people, if they don't have a local community, and especially if they're planning to play on TTS, right, like the Discord communities are like the stand-in for that hype continuum. And think about what it's like if someone is like, I just finally painted this guy, I'm excited to play it. And then you go on Discord and people are like, well, that sucks, play something else.
Boo.
Right? Like, think about how much that kills that hype continuum, instantaneously. Mm-hmm. And like that person, you may have like actually just made that person less excited to play, period.
Yeah. And for me, it's like people trying to get me into the card games, I think, has made me realize what succeeds and what doesn't succeed on getting someone who's maybe not fully invested. And the investigatory period of it, I think, is the most important part, because people have assumptions that what they like about a thing is the thing that everyone will like about the thing.
Yes.
So they're actually barking up the wrong tree of how to actually get me involved in something. So,
there's no art to the card game side of things, unless have you done any card games? Do you like draw art on top of the card to like
I have altered Magic cards, but they're not tournament legal because they're alters. But there's other aspects of games I like, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't play. Yeah. So, but I have realized like you can't have like a one size fits all sort of approach to things. You're gonna have to figure out what direction you're pointing in and then like snowball that. But I'm only realizing that because of how not well people are convincing me to play other games.
Well, to wrap up the hype continuum part, thank you for being my hype continuum for AOS, and I will continue to be your hype man for whenever you are able to paint some Shatterpoint stuff again.
Yeah.
So the takeaway for that for the viewers and listeners is just like, hey, make sure that you're not like killing that for the new people, and just be there. I think a lot of people want to grow their local communities. Yeah. And so some people are not as extroverted as me, will not ask for that relationship. And so sometimes you might need to peer pressure them a little bit. Like, hey, make sure someone knows, like, hey, you can send me pictures. And every time they send you a picture of a model they're working on, make sure, oh, cool. Let me know whenever you hit like the next stopping point. I want to see the progress. Like, make sure they feel reinforced. Right? Like, I think you and I both get into the thing where like we can feel like a burden very quickly. And you're like, if I send a bunch of pictures to somebody and then like there's just like no responses, you eventually you're going to be like, they don't want to see any of this. And
you can, like, it doesn't really take very much to make an impact on someone. So, like, even if it, like, there's not that much buy-in to have a really big payoff. So,
yeah, Sin tells me my models look great even when they're amateur as fuck.
Oh my goodness.
Appreciate there. All right. So next thing that I've realized in this last, couple weeks of like doing a game that I've never done before. So there's actually a better one, but I'm going to do the other one first because it's slipping my mind. How do you actually find a game of Shatterpoint, right? Is like it. Oh, right. If say you're getting into the game, how do you find another person to play? Which, by the way, little anecdote here, because I was turning on more channels in the Mox Discord, because I usually will mute channels and then hide muted channels so that I have like stuff to focus on. But I'm like, I should actually like have the AOS channel open. And so then I realized that there was a find a game channel in the Mox.
Looking for games? Right?
Yeah. I thought it was very funny that the 40K people do not say they were looking for a 40K game. There's looking for a game, and then everyone else says the game system. Game? Yeah. I just thought that was super funny, whereas like, you don't, like, that is a level that I just don't understand. Like, in a generic minis game, like Discord section, and you're like looking for a game, and you don't even say the game system in the title, right? Like, that blew me away a little bit.
Yeah, very 40K normative. The general assumption of what people are around to do. Kind of sad, but
yeah, I haven't like posted that I'm looking for a game because we're gonna do my first AOS full game. But I was just like, I want to just kind of like look at it and kind of like see how people approach like organizing meetups and stuff. But if you don't have that sort of thing, I think, as I've found with like, because I can't normally make like the MCP Thursday night, I gotta schedule stuff on the weekends. And that like wears you out. And so I think having a good like mechanism for like how you're gonna find games and find people to play, because your initiative to buy models and paint stuff is very directly connected to how you actually get a game in.
That's true. Like, you have to complete the circle somehow. And part of that is indeed like, I've done all the work. Now I theoretically have the payoff of, I get to play the game with other people. I think that's the part, though, finding game is the one that I have probably the least, like,
trouble with? Or?
I get, how do I say this without sounding fucking conceited?
Say the conceited thing. Say the conceited thing. Conceited thing.
I never have to find a game. They find me. And so
you're a vortex. You're a people vortex.
Yeah. And so I think, like, thinking about it, like, that's like a genuine question. Like, how would, if I wasn't on the receiving end of invitations all the time, what would I do? I don't know.
Right. And so that was one of my big takeaways, was like, like, especially, can you imagine if you've never done a miniatures game before, like, how do you even approach that?
Yeah.
You know, finding the local Discord, finding like other players. And it's amazing how much some of this stuff comes back to having a really great employee at the game store, right? Like, so thankful, like, shout out to Nick. And there's obviously a lot of great box employees, but like, shout out to Nick for just how much he helps facilitate the miniatures game side of things. And like, that is just so important. Cause like, obviously the horror stories I've heard of like people who like come into a game store to play Shatterpoint, they buy a box, and like literally the game store owner is ringing them up being like, I don't know why anyone plays this game. This game sucks. Nobody buys it. And you're like,
okay.
Like, that shit's off. That's certainly not how you grow a community.
No. Although kind of funny / sad, since I, at the store that I run, I'm the only one who is there consistently who plays miniatures games.
Yeah.
And it's very funny because like people come in and like, I'm really interested in learning AOS. And then they look right at me and they're like, is anyone here? Does someone else here know minis games? And I'm like,
I'm the minis game person.
Me, and then they like don't believe me for for whatever stupid reason. But you
need a badge that's like minis game guru.
People don't believe me. And like I legit, this is like super sad, but I had someone come in and talk to one of my coworkers, and he was like, "Oh yeah, if you want to, I don't know anything about Age of Sigmar. If you want to talk, you should talk to Ren." And he like turned over and like stared at me, and I like waved, and I was like, "Yeah, I can talk." He just stared at me for like 30 seconds, and I was like, and then he just turned around and walked out of the store, and I was like, "What did I do?"
You're scary. You're intimidating.
Apparently, I try not to be, but it's way. That's kind of edge cases. There's way more often than not when people come in and they're like, "Hey, I've seen this stuff before, but I really don't know what it is." Or more often, randomly, I got a lore video about this thing, and I'm curious about it. And you're right, it is like, as a game store employee, kind of the game store, like up to the game store employee, how much they're going to get you into it. But to me, at least, the critical thing is having a community leader to point to, because I don't like for 40K. There's a human, Chris, who has basically volunteered, like, if anyone ever wants to learn to play, I am that guy. Give them my Discord and I will do a learn to play. And so I know, and I can feel comfortable being like, oh, you're interested in learning 40K. I don't have to worry if I'm overstepping a boundary by being like, contact Chris. He does all of our learn to plays. So I think it's like a two-way street of like, if you are, there needs to be a game store employee who is willing to talk, and then a community leader who is willing to take those people in fully. And as long as you can have that loop, it's fine. Because like, there's been so many people added to the group at our store just because Chris is willing to do a lot of learn to plays.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that's something that I've like stressed to Nick. Now Nick can teach Shatterpoint too, but like I've definitely been like, I will, if anybody's like, oh, I picked up the starter box, I want to learn. You're like, Omnis will fucking teach you. Show up on Saturday. No problemo.
Yeah. And that's been a really good part about having like a consistent time for meeting people as well. Because some people are like, oh, I can tell they're shy. They don't feel comfortable reaching out to a single human privately. And I'm like, well, if you're uncomfortable with that, they meet this day. You can come by anytime on this day or in this window during this day, and you can talk to these 5 people and they will explain 40K to you. And they're like kind of more comfortable in that zone of like not feeling like a one-on-one. So like having a consistent day for things and then having a consistent human willing to talk, like if I didn't get into it because everyone drags me around everywhere and whatever, I would have had to get in that way.
Yeah, it's definitely something I've been thinking about because of like Mox tells me like they sell a lot of Shatterpoint product.
Yeah.
Very rarely do I see that Shatterpoint product then return to the store to be played on the table.
Yeah.
Like maybe 25% of what they sell do I like actually end up seeing, in the playing, like being played in the store, which may mean some of it is just probably people wanting to paint it because it's really cool looking models. But I imagine that there's this hump where people buy the starter box or they buy a couple of boxes and maybe they start putting them together and then they just lose interest and like don't ever find a game.
Yeah. And
I think that's one of the stages where we really want to help. Like if someone is getting into Shatterpoint, right, and they're buying boxes, we need to help them. And that's where like the hype continuum, like be a part of that, like, like, hey, when you start putting stuff together, like message me, I want to see, and like, hey, let's plan a game as soon as you're ready, right? And like have that. Like, honestly, a lot of that is on the shoulders of a game store employee to maybe initiate some of that stuff.
I'll be so for real with you. I am lucky if I hit 25% painted of the things that I bring into my home. So it might be a little bit people like me who just collect stuff and leave it in boxes in their storage unit. I
think I'm better than 25%.
I'm not near 25%. I think I'm at like 1 in 10.
You think you're 10%?
I'm at 10%. I have a spreadsheet.
Yeah, I
of 2 spreadsheets. No, it's 3. Spreadsheet of painted, spreadsheet of unpainted assembled or sub-assembled, spreadsheet of I hasn't even taken shrink wrap off of it. That one's the biggest one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I hit like 10%.
I feel like I'm probably in like 75%.
I can attest to that, and it makes me so mad.
I do end up with some stuff that's not painted, but I think a big chunk of that is like, oh, I have purchased extra Shatterpoint core sets for terrain. I obviously have not gone back and repainted every single one of those models.
Yeah.
I use some of them for trophies, for other
like,
things. Like
of the unique models that you bring in.
Yes.
You're
most
way
of them.
high.
Yeah. But like there's still like I'll buy a box and I'm like, I'm buying the box because I want to play Vader. And maybe I don't immediately paint the other stuff in the box, but I bought it for Vader.
Yeah.
And so like I don't begrudge myself too much if I don't paint the secondary in a box, which I knew I wasn't excited about, but I wanted like the support in the primary or whatever. But I feel like in general, I do a fairly good job of,
you do a great job
of painting the stuff that, and like then actually playing it.
Yeah. How does it feel to live my dream?
Yeah. You were doing probably a better job before you injured yourself.
I was also painting a lot of other people's stuff.
That is also true. I'm curious, before we move on to the next one, you're managing a game store now.
Yes.
Have you learned anything since switching to managing a game store that you feel like has helped you as far as like helping people get games?
I've learned a lot about managing community, managing the game store. And not all of it's good, but people getting, so at least at our store, there's not that many minis tables. Like we have a minis night. Like this is only minis, no tabletop gaming. It's just minis. But we still
minis is tabletop gaming.
Sorry, TCGs.
I just had to give you a hard time about it.
Up there. Sorry, only tabletop, no TCG. And we still don't have enough tables, so like them organizing themselves and trying to like, because 40K games are long. And ARS games are long too. So community-wise, I underestimated until I was in a position of authority how important the relationship between the store manager and the community leader is. Because, like, how much I can do for them, I don't want to say it's dependent on their behavior, but it's kind of dependent on their behavior. So, like, it's a lot harder for me to justify facilitating an extra day for something if the community is being bad versus if they're being great, or again from a administrative side, if the community leader comes to me and he's like, hey, I organized this whole thing, here's my write-up about how it's going to go and how much you could charge for it and like what we're doing, all you have to do is like click a button. I'm probably okaying that versus if they're like, hey, can you just think of something and put it on the calendar and maybe we'll show up? Like, that's not going to happen. So, like, I've thought about doing, like, a Learn to Play day. Because we do tournaments once a month. And I'm like, what about instead of a tournament, we do a Learn to Play day? But, like, that requires so much of me coordinating with the community leaders. And so it's kind of like, got to be a very good relationship there. So
an example from my side is when I was a game store employee, I was basically an event organizer before that title really existed in most game stores.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to work full time in a game store. So I basically kept figuring out events and like in general, events made money. Yeah. Right. And so I liked running events. I was good at running events. And so I would like figure out other ones. So I was running Yu-Gi-Oh, even though I have never played Yu-Gi-Oh in my life.
Yeah.
But I very quickly just...
Did anyone get stabbed?
No, nobody got stabbed. Why would someone get stabbed?
There's been more stabbings at Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments than any other card game tournament.
That is a really crazy stat. My point before it was stabbing westward was that I zoned in on like someone in the community who knew the rules. And I was basically like, I will run I forget what, Wednesday night or something, right? We have an open night. I will run a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament. I will do the pairings, entry fees, prize structure, all that stuff. But I need someone that can answer rules questions.
Yeah, PTO and the judge.
And basically they're like, yeah, totally. And they were like good at it. And like the community liked them. And so like worked well. And like that was actually one of the smoothest events that I would ever run because they were just so happy to have an event.
Yeah.
Because nobody at the store fucking played Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah.
And so I just, and so I think that is a thing that like you do sometimes just have to step up, right? Like that's part of why I stepped up for Evergreen. They didn't really have a Shatterpoint judge in their like system. Yeah. And I was like, all right, I want this to be successful. I want our local, convention to kick ass. So
yeah, being willing to donate your time and energy into something, because like, I know, like I've had this conversation where they're like, well, like it's your job. And I'm like, technically no. And so like, I only have so much time and I can't do all of it.
Yeah.
And so like, if you're not going to meet me halfway, I'm just going to run a card game event because that's easier. So
yeah. So I think you got to be there. And I like one of the things I really liked, I've been re-listening to some of the Between Two Sprues episodes from like their very initial ones. And Poos had just run like one of the first tournaments. And then, Two Legs was like, hey, I don't think I could do the rules stuff, but I'm willing to like switch back and forth with you and like run a tournament so that you can play in some. And I think that kind of stuff is really important too. Don't burn out the TO/judge.
Yeah.
Keep them going. And so if you can step up and run some, this is not me trying to get people to like step up here. I'm totally fine. I'm like fucking addicted to this shit. But I just mean, you don't want the TO to burn out and lose the TO and then suddenly lose your events.
Yeah.
Because finding a game is important.
Yeah.
I have a Poos story. Since I brought up Poos, should I insert Poos story now or should I do Poos story after the other community thing? You pick now or close out the podcast with it.
We'll have we'll do it now. A Poos Boosh first.
Okay.
First
So Poos was upset that I did not tell you the Subdepticon story, and he told part of it on his podcast. And I had totally forgotten about it. I was busting up laughing listening to them talk about it. So Friday night, I think, at a Thursday night or Friday night, something like that, at Adepticon, Norbert and I think it's Scott Ferguson kind of had a cooperative like hangout thing where it's like Norbert has been a long time community organizer. He was for War Machine. He was on the East Coast. He was like a super organizer. Okay. Moved to London. Absolutely great dude. And he eventually took over an MCP podcast across the Bifrost. He's also like gotten very involved with like TTS leagues. And anyway, absolutely wonderful dude. Like one of the most delightful people. Almost always has a bottle of whiskey with him for sharing at events. Just absolutely wonderful dude. And, has traveled to the US multiple times. But anyway, he was doing a hangout, and Scott Ferguson, who is a painter who does really cool stuff and really cool terrain. And I was like, I actually wanted to meet Scott and I always want to see Norbert. So a bunch of us were like, oh, we're definitely going to go to that hang. That room was not very big. So we basically ended up taking control of like the whole hallway, outside of this like meeting room. And there's like a whole bunch of us like hanging out and talking. And then it hit a point where I was like, all right, I've drank enough. I need to go to the bathroom. And Poos is like, oh, I need to go too. And so we find a bathroom. Poos is in the stall, not stall, but like urinal to my left. And I ended up right next to him because there was other people there. And for some reason, I just was being stupid. And so as like Poos and I are right next to each other, and all of a sudden I'm just looking down and I start going, don't look at Pooz's dick. Don't look at Pooz's dick. Don't look at, but like he doesn't even miss a beat. I don't even remember what he said, but he started cracking jokes too. And so like the whole bathroom is basically just laughing, and Pooz and I are laughing so hard, like we can't breathe. But then like we're walking out of the bathroom and there was like another guy at the urinal who was like laughing and like busting up with like Poos and I just like being like stupid 5th grade boys and like, but then like that guy like just walks off another direction and Poos was very confused and thought they were like a friend of mine.
Oh. Yeah, bullshitting with someone. He's like,
yeah.
Oh.
And it just there's always this like weird awkwardness. Obviously, you're not a boy. You've never been in a boys' urinal system where like there's this like weird dichotomy of like you're supposed to pick urinals as far away from other people as possible, and then the busier it gets, the more you're like, you know, right next to each other, and like they don't put very much in between. So like I feel like as a guy, there's always like, don't use your peripheral vision. Don't like look at another dude while they're peeing. And, but I thought I would make a stupid joke about it. And of course, Pooh's like one-ups me immediately. And, yeah, I don't remember what he said. I just remember laughing so hard I couldn't breathe by the time we were getting out of the bathroom.
You know, I'll never understand the brotherhood of having to not look at each other's genitals. That's just not an experience I'll ever get to have.
Yeah. I don't want to ask about women's bathrooms and looking at genitals. We're not going to go that route. Yeah, anyway, Pooh's, thank you for like a gut rolling laughter moment in a random bathroom, and his confusion of assuming that the other guy that just like started busting up laughing at us like we didn't know at all. Like, I'm wondering if that dude like went home and you're like, man, these guys were just like so stupid in this bathroom. I don't even know if they were like convention, right? Like we were off at a hotel. They could have just been a fucking rando at the hotel.
When I was at LVO last year, you're reminding me of running into someone in the bathroom, and we're like washing our hands. And that's the girlhood moment in the bathroom, is we wash hands next to each other. There's no anything else involved. And she was
your
like,
nails are so pretty.
Exactly. And so we were having like a girl moment, and she was like, oh, so why are you here? And I was like, oh, for like minis. And she goes, like miniature horses? And I was like,
well, yes,
I wish.
But, yeah.
I would be so lucky to be here to look at miniature horses. And I was like, no, like wargaming. And she was like LARPing. And I'm like, no. She's like, how do you miniature LARP? And I'm like, we're getting farther away from what's going on. And I was like, they're like tiny models. And she was like, huh. And you war with them. And I'm like, you're making it sound real weird. It's like a game. It's like a board game. And she's like, okay, enjoy that. And left. So I had that.
Can you imagine her going back to her family? It's like, I ran into this girl in the bathroom who's like, really likes miniature horses and going to war with like a LARP miniature horse group.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I wish. Could you imagine LARPing with miniature horses in a war game? That'd be friggin' so much better than what we were actually doing. I don't know. So
I go the tabletop game. Like, I'm like, this is like a board game, and you paint the characters that you use in the board game.
I wasn't ready for the question, really. I've explained what Warhammer is so many times, what miniatures games are so many times, what Shatterpoint is so many times. And in that moment, all words failed me. I was like, it's a war game.
I think it is a little bit easier with like Star Wars or the Marvel stuff where like people recognize the characters, like War Machine or Warhammer or Age of Sigmar, like where nobody knows what it is. Even if it was like Lord of the Rings, I think it's a little bit easier. Like, oh yeah, there's these 3D models of the characters from Lord of the Rings, and I paint them, and then we play a board game with them.
You know, I explained war games to a child once, and I was like, okay, imagine.
Okay, I don't like it when you call me a child, but go on.
I gotta have the two extremes, like Omnissiah, actual child.
Yeah.
So, but I was like, you know, it's like if you have a big board, and then you put all your Polly Pockets on it, and then there can be only one winning Polly Pocket. And she was like, we do that already. And I was like, solid.
Yeah.
You're in.
Yeah. If I was explaining what I do now to like young Omnis before he was Omnis, right? Yeah. Like, and I was like playing with G.I. Joe and Terminator figures in a dirt fort, right? I would just be like, hey, so basically what we do now is we get to paint him to look like whatever we want. And we're like a pretty decent painter now too. And then there's rules. And you can actually like fly to different places and beat up on different people in different countries with your Terminator figures.
Gosh.
I think young Omnis would be very proud of me.
You know, gosh, if I explained to little Ren and little Sin what is going on, I think that she would probably be like, well, we like painting. That's fun.
Yeah, that's fair.
But it's inside and there's no horses involved at all. What do you mean? Also,
you are painting Valkyrie on Ellendale. There is a horse involved.
There are painting a Marvel on some
model
level horses involved, but like I think that it's depending on what age of young Sin we're talking about. I think very young just wouldn't get it. 8 to 10 would be like, well, I hate chess. Why would I play chess more? And slightly older than that would be like, fucking nerd. I hadn't fully accepted it yet.
Yeah, fair. All right. So I had one other community thing, which I actually think is like probably pretty obvious when like you say it out loud, but I was just realizing the importance of it. And that is like a local like rules guru, right? Like there's been times like I appreciate you've answered my questions, but I think it is very normal to look at a character card or, you look at like rules and you just don't understand exactly how it works. Or you think there's multiple ways that it could work. And you're just like, I'm sure this is clarified somewhere. And I would just like a degree of clarity on exactly how this works. And I think that is a really important part of the community. Right? Because it particularly sucks when you get to the game store and you have an idea of how something works and you find out mid-game that it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And so first, shout out to you. I appreciate you answering the questions. But I was like...
Not a rules guru.
Also, not wanting to bug you because I know you're super busy. Like, I Googled a couple of things and like found Reddit answers. And I'm also like, Reddit could be wrong. Like, I don't know the dude who's responding to this.
Yeah.
But... that is something like most of the time someone can ask me a Shatterpoint question. Mm-hmm. And I'm realizing that it's even more important to make that role known. Yeah. Right? Because as we already talked about, not everybody's willing to reach out with a rules question. Some people might think that they're annoying me, but I'm like, one of my plans is going to be I'm going to post in the Mox Discord and make sure I tell like, hey, if you come across any rules question or anything, you just message me. I am happy to answer. And if I don't know the answer, I'll look it up. Like, no disrespect to AMG. It is kind of hard to look up their rules stuff, right? Like their forum of rules is not the most user friendly for a new person to find stuff. It gets even harder for Star Wars because you'll find like Asajj Ventress. And like, well, there's Asajj Ventress in Legion as well, right? So you start reading Legion rules, you know, is a really easy thing to have happen. So I was just realizing like how kind of privileged I felt with like every time I take a break from MCP or Shatterpoint, I know exactly who and where to ask for a rules question on new models. And so it was just hitting me that like for a new person, that's got to be a whole lot more intimidating. Cause I was like, how does Strike First actually work in Age of Sigmar? And I just wasn't confident reading the card that I understood exactly the way that was going to work. And it just made me think, I was like, man, there's a ton of weird stuff in Shatterpoint that you probably want to be able to ask someone. So do you have thoughts on the importance of a rules guru?
Yeah, and it doesn't need to be a different person than the community leader, but like
for sure,
having different facets of it does help really a lot. I think like at least for the community that plays at our store, I really have one of them who I call upon for like learn to plays, one of them who I call upon for rules, and then another one that I call upon if the person coming in already knows mini games. He's like the gauntlet.
Yes.
So like it doesn't need to be different people, but having humans who are willing to be around and like make it enthusiastically obvious that they're willing to be around and willing to answer questions, because there's a miles and miles of difference between, I could answer questions and yes, please send me questions. I am telling you, use me as a community resource. Cause like having, like, it's like the hype thing of like, I'm excited about this game, but now I feel like I'm burdening people by being excited about this game. So if someone's like, nope, you'll never burden me talking about this game, just like reach out to me with questions. Like that can like really bridge a gap for someone.
Yeah, and I'll use there's a phone game that I play, and they had an event where like each of the bosses in that event could only be killed in really specific ways. But if you were fighting that boss and it was outside of the event, there really wasn't a great way to figure out how you beat them. And like, I went to Google searches, right? But like the Reddit searches for that were like, read the quest. And I was like, I can't get the quest right now. The event's not going on. I just found this thing in the fucking wild.
Yeah.
And like, but you don't want to ask because like the people who are answering are being dicks.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think there's a natural intimidation. Like, am I asking a stupid question?
Reading the card explains the card.
Right. But, you know, if I'm at the store playing Shatterpoint, I definitely answer MCP questions.
Yeah.
Right? If I'm at the store playing MCP, I'll fucking answer Shatterpoint questions. I am happy to help people find, and like, I think it's interesting. Like, as a person who I feel is like at least close to rules guru, I'm like, I'm not Matt Booker or anything. Like, when Donovan and I find a rule that's weird, we're like, let's just message Booker. Like, if Booker says one way or the other, that is probably the right way. But I enjoy like learning some of those weird situations where like, oh, I didn't even think about this interaction. Right. And I think that's interesting. And I just get to be a better and better player by like absorbing that stuff. And so, but you don't want to seem annoyed when you get asked those things. You want to make sure like, hey, yeah, I'm happy to help. And also you don't have to feel like you're perfect. You can go, hey, that's a really good one. I'm actually going to need to look it up. So sometimes just being the person who knows how to look up a rule reasonably well is super helpful. But yeah, I think that is another thing that like, you just don't want to stop someone's journey into Shatterpoint, right?
Yeah.
And even I had a list that I put together, and I realized as I was talking about the list, I'm like, oh, wait a second, this doesn't work. I'm banking on 2 reaction triggers, and that's not how that works. You only get one. And so like we all make mistakes, and I think just but like having that for community, because you don't want a new person finally get into the game store and then they just absolutely misunderstood how like a key rule works, or maybe they didn't know about an errata, or, you know, any of these things. And you just want to find a way to like, we talk about this in like the industry that I work in, but one of the biggest things is like just when expectations like doesn't clash well with reality. Right? When someone has an expectation for what something is going to be like, I'll say, I work in travel. A lot of people's idea of a Hawaiian vacation is what they've seen on a TV show, which is very rarely ever filmed in Hawaii.
Whoops.
You know, and, you know, that's just not how vacations work. There are not TV shows. And so like helping people understand like what sort of environment they're going into, like what to expect, you know, can really like make the experience better because they're not building up something that's untrue in their mind.
Yes.
And I think that's important for us as wargamers, is like, you don't want to like have someone get to the table and then realize that none of the shit is working the way they thought it was.
That's true. Very true. People, well, I mean, we've talked a lot about like having discussions about what people want out of things before, so.
Yes.
Just extends into that.
Yeah, we're not going to get into like the demo stuff. We've already done that in other episodes. Listen to the other ones. We've talked about demos. But I think we all want to see Shatterpoint grow. And I think these are some of the things that I'm trying to keep in my mind now, where I'm like, I want to make sure people know that I will answer rules questions. I want to make sure people know I will be your hype continuum. You can message me pictures of models that you're painting. We can talk about lists, all of those things. And you know, I want to make it as easy for people as possible to find games, because I think these are some of the ways that we lose players, and I would like to not lose them. Yeah.
I know that one of my problems is like, because I'm so busy, and unfortunately for me, one of my jobs involves like moderating a Discord. I end up like not interacting with Discord besides like, when people at me or DM me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I want to be better about being involved in things, because I'm just like, oh, I opened Discord and I've got 10 DMs and 3 ats.
You are popular.
Well, some of it is that, and a lot of it is just, hey, I ordered this and I meant to order that. Can you refund me? And so I'm just like, yes, it is my job. I'll absolutely do it. I'll absolutely refund you. But it's like, I got to do that like 7 times. And then I get to look at your cool model pictures. Yeah. So it's like, after I get through all of my like required DMs, I'm usually like, all right, I'm done looking at Discord. But like people, I hope people know they can message me. Like I only look intimidating, and only sometimes. I try to look approachable. I try to be approachable. People can talk to me, but I guess I don't know. Maybe it doesn't seem that way.
Maybe people just don't speak a droid queen, so they don't like know the language to
use. That's so fair. Well, yeah, maybe I haven't made it clear that non-droids can indeed talk to me. You don't have to be a droid to talk to me. It helps.
Sometimes you just need a droid guru in your life.
Yeah, no one messages me about droids. Come on, where's the droid messages? You know?
Yeah, because now you're gonna get more Discord messages.
Good. I want to have more connections with people and more personal connections with people. It's just like, and I feel bad being like, help me out, but like, I clearly proving myself to be this is my personal. Failure, I guess, of like being involved in the community is that I'm bad at being online involved, and I've been too busy or injured to be person involved. So I feel like I'm just kind of like slacking a bit, but hopefully soon I am more involved on both fronts. So
fair. All right. Well, I think we're going to probably wrap up the main episode there. We'll still have a little Patreon action for the War Council and the rest of the patrons, but appreciate everyone. It's been really fun talking with Pure, just because we're like both in this like journey of experiencing new stuff. And I've been like talking to Dizzard and like Sarah Kroll a bit, but like Pure and I feel like we're on like the exact same wavelength. We're like thinking about the same things. Like he was even talking about how he recorded an episode of his new show, Anti-Timing, and they were talking about like the same thing that you and I were talking about and like referenced. Cause like we were just like so in the zone of like some of the same things crossing our mind. Like they were they dug into it much more, but they were doing like theme versus mechanics. And that was the thing I brought up in our little beginning of the AOS adventure, which by the way was super fun. If you haven't checked that out and you're like just listening to this on Spotify or something, Sin and I did do like a beginning of my Age of Sigmar journey, which was just maybe it was like 40-45 minutes, something like that. Just kind of talking about like getting into a new game, experiencing it, because we want to keep this like fairly Shatterpoint focused. We do like some general wargaming stuff, but I wanted to talk about what it was like. And so I thought that was a really fun episode. Just like from a perspective of like starting a journey and thoughts. Like I wouldn't say I'm like actively promoting Age of Sigmar yet. I'm just like, I think this will be an interesting like video diary, essentially. Yeah. If you want to hear about Ghoulie Boys, Big Mar, and how almost made me actually sweat, then you can listen to that or watch that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to doing some more of those. Like when we hit, that's like an irregular thing. It will just be kind of but probably like after we play the first full game of that. I'm excited. Yep. I took the day off work, actually. And then YouTube channel is getting very close to the final level of partnership. I think I'm about like 100 subscriptions away. Hey-o. That's free if you're not used to YouTube. So if you just have a Google account and you're willing to go on and hit sub so that I can hit the 1,000 mark, that's really the next thing that I need. It's absolutely free. So just if you can do that, super appreciate it. But I think we're ready to wrap here. Do you wanna close us out? I mean, no. No, you don't want to. All right. Well, Omnis and Poos are rarely reserved in the urinal. Oh my gosh! Later, nerds. Comm signal. Man, no. Like. Oh my god.